So as the cryptocurrency was born in 2008 with Bitcoin, the banking system was born a couple of 100 years back. And the way the banking system was born, because when we migrated from the barter system to the banking system, as you know, we used to live in a barter society. And then the fiat money was born by the central authority saying that the barter system is very difficult to transact, and let's print something which has a value, which has a fixed value against which everything can be created, which everything can be traded. And so along with the fiat money came the banking system. The main use case of the banking system was to facilitate the transaction between two parties. And the first banking prototype was done in BC 2000, as per the history I was reading here. And the first banking transaction was between a merchant and a farmer. So as you can see, by nature the banks were born to be the mediator, right? So essentially, when the fiat money started printing up, and then the banks were born, the whole idea of the banking was to facilitate the transaction and also to hold the money on people's behalf. And that made a lot of sense, because if a transaction has to happen on a certain date, why not keep the money with the bank, and when the time is right, bank will do the transaction on your behalf. So in that way, bank is also safeguarding your money and helping you as a transaction. So that was the whole idea of the banking system. And eventually they started loaning out money as well. And of course, later on, they got a license to loan out almost 90% of the money that they hold. So let's say, for example, if you were depositing about 10,000 rupees or $10,000 in the bank account, the bank have a right to loan out about 9,000 of it to others in order to earn interest. So as you can see, it's a clear thing wherein the money does not own the money, and it's still going ahead and loan out. So it's basically you're loaning out something that you don't own. So as you can see, the clear flaw in the banking system. But how somehow they got a license to do that from the central authority, which is pretty weird. I mean, if the BitConnect had to do the same thing, will be called as a Ponzi scheme. But still, people are pretty much fine with the banking doing the same thing, just rolling the money from one person to the other person, and giving out which they don't actually own. So as you can see how so there is so much of flaw into the current banking system. But that's not the only flaw. The flaw is also what the central authority. So when it was decided that, okay, let one central authority let print the money, initially it was all backed by the silver and gold. So every dollar bill, even if you look at the old dollar bill, was printed against silver or the gold. But in 1913, the Federal Reserve was born. So the current dollar system that we have is actually owned by a private company, which is called Federal Reserve. So Federal Reserve is not owned, it's not a government company. I mean, I'm sure most people out there, they're not aware of this fact. Even I did not know about this fact. Of course, I've learned all these things by reading books from Mike Maloney and other books. So yes, so Federal Reserve is not a government organization. It's a privately held organization which issues US dollar. And again, that Federal Reserve is owned by Bank of England. Now, who owns Bank of England? Nobody has any clue. But as you can see, there are clearly two problems here. The first one is the money supply is coming from a fixed central authority. So there's no cap on how much can be issued. It can be printed, and so the inflation. Just to give you a brief, the banking system started in 2000 BC. And after that, there have been so many banking collapse. And I was shocked and surprised to actually see that because the Federal Reserve right now, the one that we are using, is about 100 plus years old, and the banking has been there for quite a long time, right? The banking used to exist before that as well, and all the banking system had collapsed earlier as well. So I have no doubt as to why this banking system will not collapse once again. It's a history. I will put the link in the description. Just type history of banking on the Google, and you will see the entire, starting from 1770, the banking system. That is when this banking system was born, and you will see everything there. Starting from 1913 is when Federal Reserve was born. So I have no doubt that this banking system will also collapse, just like other banking system has collapsed before. So this was the idea of the fiat. This is how the banking money was born. Banking system was born to facilitate the fiat transactions. And of course, we can clearly see the two flaws. And the biggest scam, the biggest flaw happened in 2008 when the Lehman Brothers actually collapsed. Uh, and the way it collapsed, now this is again very interesting. Now they said that this is the actual volume and they have this kind of money with them, which actually they did not have. And one fine day it is found out that, well, they don't have the money that they claim to have. I mean, I'm sure it's the same thing with most of the banks. I mean, if you go to the bank and if everybody goes to the bank today and goes to withdraw their money, there is not sufficient money to give it to everyone. I mean, they don't have it. They the way they give out to people money, the day the people start depositing the money in the bank will not be able to loan out. And the day all the people go to the bank and take the money out, the banks will stop functioning on that day. So as you can see, it's clearly a Ponzi. Uh, Maybe not Ponzi, but kind of it has that elements of Ponzi into it in the banking system. And to curb that, and this was of course exposed on to in 2008 in Lehman Brothers collapse, and that is when this group of anonymous people, or maybe one person or one woman who nobody knows, went ahead and created Bitcoin, a global ledger, one public ledger, wherein you don't have to be dependent on the banking system for the transaction to take place. Two people can transact between each other independent of the bank. Not only they can transact, but they can also be their own bank, which was a big blow. And that we have seen that over the 1 decade it has been successful and will continue to be successful. And of course, there were so many other. So the technology was born in the form of Bitcoin, which is blockchain. And the people realize that, you know what, you can not just do money on it, but you can also do so many other applications. You can build so many other business applications as well. And that is when the Ethereum was born. And then there are so many other inventions which are happening. And eventually these applications have its own value in the form of token or coin. And that is why you have so many cryptocurrencies on the coin market. So Bitcoin is solving the problem of the money, and Ethereum is solving a problem of building up a decentralized organization. And so every cryptocurrency has some use cases. Of course, there are others which do not have any use cases and a scam. But essentially, this is how the cryptocurrencies was born. So as you can clearly see, since the inception of cryptocurrencies, there is no need of banking system. It can completely dissolve the banking system. Still, there is time. The problem with right now, since this technology is very new, it is not scalable as yet. And that is what the problem that we see with the blockchain, that it is not scalable and everyone is trying to do. So in my opinion, the banking system will dissolve because this is how the history has worked. Every 100 years there has been new innovations, and this time again it's a new thing. And it will take some time. And maybe a couple of more years before we are able to scale up to the next level. But the next big things are the cryptocurrencies, in my opinion. Let me know, what do you think about this thought? Again, this is not an expert advice. This is something that based on my research, and I may be wrong. I'm not that very old, so I've not lived in 2000 BC, so I don't know how exactly it works. Everything that I've shared is just read somewhere, so I may be wrong as well. Feel free to put your comments and feel free to put your thoughts as well. And the whole idea is to let's understand this economy and where we are heading next. Thank you. So thank you so much, guys, for watching. Give this video a like, share, subscribe, hit that bell button if you have not so, to keep yourself updated on the notification. And I'll see you next time.